The auctioneer had barely announced my name when the entire ballroom erupted in laughter. I stood beneath the bright afternoon lights of the charity stage, wearing a borrowed navy blazer that was slightly too tight across my shoulders, while a giant screen behind me displayed the words, "Mystery Date." My friends had done this as a joke, a harmless prank they promised would last 5 minutes. But then my sister's best friend raised her bidding paddle. Once. Twice. Again. And when the numbers climbed far beyond what anyone expected, she simply smiled at me as if she had been waiting years for this moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that sometimes the person standing closest to you is the one who truly sees your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories like this to you. My name is Rowan Mercer, and at 31, I had become very good at pretending that nothing embarrassed me. I worked long hours repairing commercial refrigeration systems, helped my mother with her medical bills, and spent most evenings taking care of my younger sister, Maribel, who was finishing college. I wasn't wealthy, glamorous, or particularly confident around women. I was the kind of man who remembered to bring an umbrella but forgot his own birthday. So when Maribel and her friends convinced me to attend their charity fundraiser one sunny Saturday afternoon, I thought I was simply helping them move tables and carry boxes. I should have known something was wrong when Maribel kept smiling at me. The event was held in the garden courtyard of an old community center, with white tents, colorful flowers, food stalls, and hundreds of people enjoying the warm daylight. The fundraiser supported children whose families couldn't afford school supplies and tuition. I respected the cause, but I never imagined becoming part of the entertainment. Then the host announced a surprise charity dating auction. Before I could disappear, 3 of my friends pushed me toward the stage. The crowd laughed, and I realized exactly what they had planned. I tried to laugh along. I told myself it was only a joke. But inside, something old and painful stirred. Years earlier, I had been engaged to someone who left me after telling me that I was too ordinary for the life she wanted. Since then, I had quietly convinced myself that romance was something meant for other people. Standing on that stage while strangers judged my appearance made every insecurity I had buried suddenly feel exposed. The bidding began slowly. Someone offered $50. Another person offered $75. People laughed and clapped. Then a familiar voice came from near the front. $500. I looked toward the crowd and froze. It was Sienna Vale. Sienna had been my sister's best friend since they were teenagers. She was 30, intelligent, warm, and somehow always seemed to know when I was having a difficult day even when I said nothing. She had watched me struggle after my father's death. She had brought groceries to my mother's house without being asked. She had once stayed up until 2 in the morning helping Maribel prepare for an exam while I worked an overnight emergency repair. But I had never imagined she saw me as anything more than her best friend's older brother. The room erupted when she raised her paddle again. $700. Someone shouted $800. Sienna answered immediately. $1,000. The laughter disappeared. I stared at her, completely confused. The auctioneer asked if she was certain. Sienna simply nodded. Then someone from the back jokingly offered $1,200. Sienna lifted her paddle. $2,000. The entire courtyard went silent. I stepped toward the edge of the stage and shook my head, silently begging her to stop. Instead, she looked directly into my eyes. There was no embarrassment on her face. No joke. No teasing smile. Only sincerity. The auctioneer counted down, and Sienna won. The money went to the charity, but I barely heard the applause. My mind was spinning. Afterward, I found Sienna near a quiet garden fountain, away from the crowd. I expected her to laugh and admit that everyone had planned the biggest prank imaginable. She didn't. Instead, she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photograph of my father. I hadn't seen that particular picture in years. It showed my father standing beside an old community playground, holding a hammer while helping repair broken equipment for neighborhood children. On the back, Sienna had written something that made my chest tighten. She had found the photograph while helping my mother organize old boxes. She told me she remembered how my father always said that a person's worth wasn't measured by what they owned, but by what they were willing to give when nobody was watching. Then she explained why she had kept bidding. She hadn't been trying to buy a date. She had been trying to make sure the person who had spent years giving everything to everyone else finally understood that he deserved to be chosen too. For years, I had believed people only noticed what I couldn't provide. Sienna had noticed what I had never thought mattered. The date itself wasn't extravagant. We walked through the community garden, ate sandwiches from a small food stall, and talked until the afternoon shadows stretched across the pavement. There were no expensive restaurants or perfect romantic moments. There was only honesty. I told her about my fears. She told me about hers. I admitted that I had always been afraid she saw me as Maribel's protective older brother. She laughed softly and told me she had been trying not to fall for me for nearly 3 years because she was terrified of destroying her friendship with my sister. When we returned to the fundraiser, Maribel was waiting for us. She looked at Sienna, then at me, and smiled as though she had known the truth all along. Months passed. The charity received enough donations that afternoon to expand its school supply program into 3 nearby neighborhoods. My mother started recovering. Maribel graduated. And Sienna and I slowly built something neither of us had expected. It wasn't perfect. We argued. We misunderstood each other. We had difficult days. But every time life became complicated, I remembered that sunny afternoon when everyone laughed at me and one person refused to join them. A year later, we returned to the same charity fundraiser. This time, I wasn't standing on the auction stage. I was helping organize the event beside Sienna. Before the ceremony began, she reached for my hand. I looked across the courtyard and realized something incredible. The joke that had once made me feel humiliated had become the moment that taught me I was worthy of being loved. Not because someone had paid thousands of dollars for a date, but because someone had looked beyond my worn-out clothes, my quiet personality, my responsibilities, and my insecurities, and had chosen the person underneath all of it. Sometimes life changes in the strangest ways. Sometimes a joke becomes a second chance. Sometimes the person who sees your value before you see it yourself becomes the person who helps you find it. And sometimes, the greatest love story begins with everyone laughing, except the one person who knows exactly why she is bidding. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise. Your support can help this story reach someone who needs a reminder that they are worthy of love, kindness, and a second chance. Before you leave, comment, "I deserve to be chosen," if you believe everyone deserves someone who sees their heart before judging their circumstances.